How do you raise the consciousness of the population? In some stories, some of the real troublemakers on the planet incarnated here from hell worlds, where they were literally demonic. So that's why some people seem to be impossible. The ones that are the worst of the worst. And that's what some people's story is, that they came from hell worlds. And they were given a chance, and they were put here onto this probationary world called Earth, where they had a chance to change. Some of us incarnated here from other star systems, fairy realms. I don't know all the other places, but this is how the story goes. So why is there such a mixed bag of consciousness on the planet? Well, you do have a lot of different beings that came here, and they're all wearing human skin suits. But anyway, if you're trying to deal with very low consciousness people, the ones that came here from hell worlds, what do you do to raise their consciousness? They commit crime, and then they get thrown into prison for a while, and then they're let out again, and everyone's disturbed that they're not rehabilitated, and they're back doing what they know how to do best, hassle all the other people. And of course, the great criminals of all are the ones that run the huge corporations, big pharmaceutical companies, and all of the the shysters that go along with the corporations. How do you raise the consciousness of people who believe that, well, for themselves, they want to be entrepreneurs, but in the society they live in, all the ones who have gone ahead of them doing entrepreneurship and have got these huge corporations do nothing but squeeze people. How do you raise consciousness? The idea, according to Dolores Cannon, was a lot of these star seeds from other star systems were asked to come to incarnate as humans, and because on the other star systems they were of much higher consciousness. Higher consciousness is more it's just, well, I'm not going to keep explaining it. But anyway, that's what they said. They were going to come here, and if enough of them came, that they would raise the collective consciousness of the planet, and it would go to 5-dimensional planet, whatever 5D means. But it's not 3D, what things used to be. Still doesn't deal with the question of what do you do with the criminal element, either the street criminals or the white-collar criminals that we call CEOs of big pharmaceutical companies or military industrial complex, or I'm even going to throw in like the ones that run the car companies and the real estate developers, because they're the ones that make incredible profits off of people. Profit is a wrong thing, in my opinion. Well, to be here you have to make profit in order to have money to buy your day-to-day things. But the whole system is rooted in this, and Jacob B. Ing says it's not based on kindness, it's based upon your ability to screw other people and get the profit and then buy the things you want. The whole system is broken. How do you raise consciousness? What do you do with the criminal element? Because, they don't seem to stay in prison very long, and when they're in prison they're with other criminals and they learn more ways of being criminal. What do you do with the CEOs of big pharma? Well, they get away with murder. I heard the story about someone who couldn't afford to buy their diabetic insulin in the United States, and so they didn't buy it, they couldn't afford it, and they died. So shouldn't you charge the corporation and the all the employees of these corporations, including the president and chief executive officer, with murder? I think that's what it's going to take to raise consciousness. These big corporations are going to have to start facing murder charges. Extortion, definitely extortion, because the prices they charge are so high. Why wouldn't you call that extortion? You look it up. Google the word extortion. What does it mean? It's when you got someone over a barrel and you force them. And, the people that are sick, they need these drugs and they can't afford to pay them. So, I mean, that's the whole idea of charging what the market will bear, and if only one person can pay, then that's what you're charging, and other people can't afford it. Well, too bad for you. This is a probationary planet. It's a place where you come to be on probation if you've come from some other hell world, where you get to pull up your socks and change your ways. And, if you're born into this world, what do you see? Well, the criminals get away with everything, and the big pharmaceutical CEOs, they get $14 million a year for producing greed and profit for those shareholders. And then the street criminals that are, mugging old people for their purses, they don't seem to change, do they? How do you raise consciousness? Well, there you have it. I gave you charge the big pharmaceutical companies with murder and extortion, and the street criminals, well, I guess when they're in jail, I mean, they used to have like prison farms where they had, the prisoners grew crops, or they learned trades. They learned how to be a carpenter or something. That's useful. Does it change their consciousness? Well, in the old days, the cops were given the liberty of beating up the street criminals. That's what they did. They were known to be the toughest people around, and they had billy sticks. And if you were caught doing street crime before you went to see the judge, you got a pounding by the police. People today would say that's against human rights, it's whatever, but that's how they did it in the old days. And did it raise consciousness? With some of these people, I think that's the only thing they understand. Some other people might say, well, you just have to do, I don't know, love them to death or something. There was the idea of a love circle. Somebody that did something wrong, you would just get a bunch of people around and tell the person all the good things they did, and help them see that they're not, always bad. But I don't know. How do you raise consciousness? I'm Jacob speaking as Harry Weaver on the topic of being on a probationary planet.